Welcome to our deep dives today. We're going to be looking at something pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to explore the connection between Zen,
Okay.
motorcycle maintenance,
Mm-hmm.
and the world of procurement,
Wow.
supply chain, and even marketing.
Okay.
I know it sounds a bit out there, right?
It does sound a little unusual.
Yeah?
Yeah, but that's what we're here for, right?
Exactly.
So
So dive into these unusual...
we're going to unpack an article
Yeah.
that takes Robert Pirsig's classic Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this book.
and applies its philosophy to these professional fields.
Okay.
It's a really fascinating read.
Before we get into the, nitty-gritty,
Yeah.
can you give us just a little taste of,
Exact-
what Pirsig is even getting at with this book?
Yeah.
I'll admit I haven't had a chance to read the whole thing yet.
That's okay. But,
A lot of people haven't.
yeah.
But at its heart is this concept of quality.
Okay.
But he's not just talking about products meeting certain standards.
Right.
It's much broader than that.
Okay.
He's exploring quality as like a fundamental principle
Mm-hmm.
that shapes how we see and interact with the world around us.
So it's like this lens through which you view the world.
Like a lens, a way of approaching everything.
The article even suggests that it applies to everything.
Yeah.
Our work, our relationships,
Yeah.
even just how we go about our day.
It really does.
That's a pretty big claim.
It is.
So how does Pirsig
Yeah.
connect all these dots?
He dives into two very different ways of approaching the world.
Okay.
The classical and the romantic.
Interesting.
So the classical is all about logic analysis.
Right.
Breaking things down into their parts.
Okay, got it.
Things, spreadsheets, data points,
Okay.
clear-cut objectives.
Like very left brain.
Very left brain, yeah.
So then the romantic must be more right brain.
Exactly.
Like the creative.
Yeah, the right brain.
Yeah.
The romantic is about intuition, feeling,
Right.
appreciating the big picture.
And the beauty of things.
I can see how those would be at odds with each other.
Sometimes they can be.
Yeah.
But they can also complement each other.
Okay.
Neither is inherently better,
Right.
but Pirsig argues that we need both
To have that full
to
picture.
truly grasp quality.
So how does this classical versus romantic idea
Yeah.
actually play out
No.
in,
Yeah.
say, a procurement role?
Yeah.
Help me bridge the gap here.
Okay, so let's say you're sourcing a new software system
Okay.
for your company.
Right.
The classical approach would be laser focused on functionality,
Right, the press.
security, features,
Uh-huh.
cost effectiveness,
Got it.
all essential stuff, of
Well,
course.
you need that.
Yeah.
For sure.
But the romantic lens would ask,
Oh,
how user-friendly is the interface?
right.
Will this actually make my team's work experience better? Is there an elegance to the design?
So it's about the human element,
Yeah.
not just ticking off
Exact.
boxes on a requirements list.
It's about finding a balance between the objective measures and the subjective feeling of quality.
This is making me rethink how I approach even my own to-do list.
Yeah.
Never mind complex projects at work.
It's a powerful concept.
Okay, another thing that caught my eye in the article was
Yeah.
this whole motorcycle maintenance metaphor.
Oh, yeah.
How does that fit into all of this?
It's actually quite brilliant.
Okay.
Just like a motorcycle needs regular care to keep running smoothly,
Right.
so do our work processes, our relationships.
Right, so it's not just
Even our own personal well-being.
set it and forget it.
It's not a set it and forget it type of thing.
You have to be constantly maintaining.
You need to be actively engaged in maintaining and improving them.
But I could also see how
Yeah.
that can be tricky,
It can be,
especially in a fast-paced environment.
especially in today's world.
Are we getting into the always-on work culture trap here?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
It's not about adding more to your plate, but rather shifting your mindset.
Okay.
Pirsig emphasizes recognizing that things need attention
Right.
and that this maintenance can be a source of satisfaction,
Instead of a chore.
not just a chore.
I like that reframing.
Yeah.
So it's less about adding tasks and more about just being
Being
mindful
mindful of the process.
of the process.
Yeah.
The ongoing care needed to
The ongoing care.
keep things running smoothly.
To keep things running smoothly or even improve them.
This idea of continuous improvement,
Right.
is that also connected to this maintenance metaphor?
They're definitely intertwined.
Okay.
Yeah, and this actually leads us to another key concept from the book.
Right.
Holistic thinking.
So we're taking a turn here
We are.
in our deep dive.
We're going to go a little deeper.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's dive in.
Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance really emphasizes seeing the interconnectedness of things.
Get it.
It's about understanding how each part contributes to the whole.
So like how a supply chain manager
Yeah,
needs to consider everything from
exactly.
raw materials
Yeah.
to the final product reaching the customer.
It's not enough to just optimize one piece of the puzzle.
Right. You need to look at it as
You got to look at the whole thing,
a whole
the
system.
whole system.
Okay.
Or in marketing,
Yeah.
you can't just create a catchy slogan and call it a day.
Right.
You need to think about the entire customer journey,
Right.
from their first interaction with your brand
Right.
to their post-purchase experience.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this holistic thinking
Yeah.
can be
It
applied
applies to a lot of things.
to so many different fields.
Yeah.
But the article also points out some of the challenges
Right.
of applying Pirsig's philosophy.
Uh-huh.
It mentions that the book can be pretty dense
It can be a little dense.
and philosophical,
yeah.
which might be intimidating for some readers.
Yeah.
I know I'm feeling that a bit.
Sure.
How does the article address that concern?
Well, it acknowledges that it's not light reading.
Right.
But that's also what makes it so rewarding.
Okay.
You know,
So it's worth the effort.
it's worth the effort.
Oh.
The article does a great job of pulling out the key takeaways.
You mentioned key takeaways.
Yeah.
Didn't the article lay out 4 specific points?
Yes, it did.
Can we go through those?
Sure.
What's the first one?
The first one is about integrating that idea of quality into everything we do.
Okay.
Not just settling for good enough,
Right.
but striving for a level of excellence that considers both the functional and the aesthetic, the objective and the subjective.
That sounds great in theory, but
Right.
how do we actually do that?
Yeah.
It feels a bit abstract.
It can feel a little abstract.
Can you give me a concrete example?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Imagine you're a marketing manager.
Okay.
Instead of just focusing on click-through rates, you start thinking about the overall user experience of your campaign.
Okay, so you're not just thinking
We're thinking bigger picture.
about numbers, you're thinking about the
Yeah, you're thinking about the feeling.
human experience.
Does it feel authentic? Does it resonate with your target audience on an emotional level? Does it reflect your brand's values? That's integrating quality.
I see.
Yeah,
It's about going beyond the surface level metrics
exactly.
and thinking about the deeper
The deeper impact.
and feeling that your work creates.
Yes.
So what's the second takeaway?
The second takeaway is about finding that balance between the classical and romantic perspectives we talked about earlier.
Right.
It's so easy to get stuck in one mode of thinking,
Yeah. Especially
especially in certain professions.
I'm definitely more on the analytical,
Yeah.
classical side.
Sure.
But wouldn't it be easier to just stick with what you're good at
Well,
rather than trying to force yourself into a different mode?
think about it this way. If you're heavily analytical,
Yeah.
maybe you need to intentionally carve out time for brainstorming and creative exploration. Maybe you seek feedback from people who are more on the intuitive romantic side.
So it's about recognizing
Yeah.
your own tendencies
Recognizing your tendencies.
and then actively seeking out opportunities.
yeah, actively seeking out
To stretch yourself.
to stretch yourself to grow.
It's like building those mental muscles that
Exactly.
you don't use as often.
It's like going to the gym for your brain.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
And that ties in nicely
does.
with the third takeaway,
Yeah.
continuous improvement.
Continuous improvement.
It's not a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process of refining, optimizing, and always looking for ways to do things better.
Always looking for ways to improve.
It's where that motorcycle maintenance metaphor really comes into play.
Exactly. It all ties together.
We need to establish systems and habits
Yes.
that support this constant evolution.
Systems and habits are key.
But what does that look like in practice?
Yeah.
Any tips for someone who's feeling overwhelmed?
Sure.
Just thinking about adding even more to their to-do list?
It doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Okay.
In a professional setting, it could be as simple as setting aside time each week for your team to debrief on a project.
Okay.
What went well? What could be improved?
Like a retrospective.
Exactly like a retrospective.
Okay.
Or it could involve implementing a system for gathering customer feedback and using that data to make adjustments.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about building those feedback loops into your processes
Building those feedback loops.
so that continuous improvement becomes a natural part of the workflow,
it becomes a habit.
not just an afterthought.
Exactly.
What about that fourth takeaway?
Holistic strategy development.
What was that again?
That's where we zoom out and look at the big picture.
Okay.
Are we considering all the angles, the interconnectedness of everything when we're making decisions?
It's so easy to get tunnel vision
yeah,
when you're focused
be
on
in the weeds.
a specific problem
Yeah.
or deadline.
You got to come up for air sometimes.
Right. But you're saying we need to resist that urge and
Resist that urge.
force ourselves to
Yeah. See the bigger picture.
see the forest for the trees.
Whether you're leading a team, managing a project, or setting personal goals, that holistic perspective is essential.
It is.
Okay, so give me an example.
Sure.
Let's say I'm in a procurement role.
Okay.
How would I apply this holistic thinking?
Well, for example, if you're working in procurement, this might mean considering the environmental impact of your supply chain, not just the cost and efficiency.
Okay.
You might also factor in the ethical practices of your suppliers and the long-term sustainability of your sourcing decisions.
So it's about recognizing that your decisions have consequences beyond
Beyond the immediate bottom line,
the immediate bottom line. It's about thinking long term
thinking long-term,
and making choices that align with a broader set of values.
a broader set of values exactly.
Wow, this is really making me rethink my approach to work.
That's the power of Pirsig's work.
Yeah.
It challenges you to examine your assumptions and consider new ways of approaching familiar problems. What's standing out to you the most as we unpack all of this?
You know what I find fascinating is how Pirsig's work, which was written decades ago, still feels so relevant today
Right.
in a world that's constantly demanding more, faster, better.
Yeah, we want it all.
We want it all and we want it now.
Now.
It's a powerful reminder to slow down, pay attention, and focus on that deeper meaning and quality in everything we do.
It's almost like a countercultural movement
It is.
within the business world.
It's like a rebellion against the status quo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
It's like he's giving us permission to care deeply about our work,
To find that sense of craftsmanship and artistry in whatever we do.
whether we're negotiating a contract, designing a marketing strategy, or, yes, even maintaining a motorcycle.
It's about bringing that sense of pride and purpose back into our work.
It's funny, before this deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
I would have never thought a book about Zen and motorcycle maintenance could have so much to say about the business world.
Yeah. You know, it's surprising, isn't it? But I think that speaks to the enduring power of Pirsig's ideas.
Right. They transcend specific industries
They do.
or job titles.
It's really more about a philosophy of life,
Yeah.
a way of approaching the world with intention and a commitment to quality.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
we've been talking a lot about this concept of quality,
Right.
but Pirsig never really gives us like a hard and fast definition, does he?
He doesn't. Why is that? Well, it's intentional. He wants us to grapple with it,
Okay.
to discover our own understanding of what quality means.
So it's almost like he's giving each reader the freedom to
Yeah.
define it for themselves based on
their own values and experiences.
their own values and experiences. Does that make it difficult to apply in a business context
That's a good question.
where you often need more concrete measures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think it challenges us to move beyond those purely objective metrics
Okay.
and consider the subjective experience as well.
I'm thinking back to that example you gave earlier about the marketing manager.
Yeah.
Considering the user experience of their campaign,
Right.
it's not just about how many clicks you get,
It's not just about the numbers,
but how it makes people feel.
exactly how it makes people feel, how it reflects on your brand, and whether it aligns with your company's values.
Right.
There's a whole layer of quality there that can't be captured in a spreadsheet.
So for someone listening who's thinking,
Yeah.
okay, this is all very interesting,
Right.
but how do I actually put this into practice in my own work?
Well,
What advice would you give them?
I think the first step is simply being aware of these different approaches.
Okay.
The classical and the romantic, the objective and the subjective.
Okay.
Start noticing how they show up in your work and see if you can find ways to bring them into better balance.
It sounds like it's more about a shift in mindset
It is.
than a specific set of actions.
That's right. It's about cultivating a sense of curiosity, a willingness to question your assumptions, and a commitment to continuous improvement.
And maybe even a bit of that Zen-like mindfulness.
A little bit of Zen never hurt anyone.
We've just scratched the surface of this book today.
Yeah.
But it's clear that Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance is a deep well of insights.
It is.
Is there one key takeaway you'd like our listener to walk away with today?
You know, if I had to choose just one, it would be to embrace the journey.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to dive into these big questions about quality and how it shows up in your work and your life. the answers might surprise you.
That's a great point. It's not about finding a one-size-fits-all solution,
It's not a one-size-fits-all.
but about embarking on that exploration
Embracing the exploration.
and discovering what resonates with you.
Exactly.
And who knows? You might even be inspired to take up motorcycle maintenance along the way.
You never know.
Well, on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration of Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance, and that it's given you some new perspectives to consider.
It's a great book.
If you're intrigued, we highly recommend picking up the book yourself. You might find that it speaks to you in ways you never expected.
I think you'll enjoy it.
As always, thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery. Until next time, keep diving deep.